This is Homer Simpson, the guy who eats too much, drinks too much, and has somehow held the same job at a nuclear power plant for 35 years, despite being the least qualified person in the building. Now try to picture The Simpsons without him. You can't, because the second you start pulling Homer out of this show, everything falls apart. The stories, the comedy, the emotional moments, all of it gone. Today I'm going to show you exactly how deep that goes. Homer Simpson is the reason most episodes of The Simpsons even happen. His impulsive, idiotic decisions are the inciting incident for almost every iconic episode the show has ever made. And if you take him out, those episodes vanish. Take Homer at the bat. Mr. Burns recruits 9 real major league players for the company softball team. The episode is stacked with guest stars and gags. An absolute classic. But it only exists because Homer is on the Springfield nuclear power plant team. He's the reason Burns cares about winning in the first place. Take Homer off that roster, and the whole story disappears. Deep Space Homer. NASA is losing viewers. Nobody cares about space anymore. So they decide to send an average, everyday American into orbit to get people watching again. They pick Homer Simpson, the most average, most aggressively ordinary man alive. The whole episode runs on that premise. Without Homer, NASA picks someone competent. Nothing goes wrong, and the episode never happens. Mr. Plow. Homer crashes his car, impulse buys a snowplow, and stumbles into the most successful business venture Springfield has ever seen. One reckless decision, and you've got one of the most quoted episodes in the show's history. No Homer, no plow, and no jingle stuck in people's heads for 30 years. Homer's enemy, Frank Grimes, a man who earned everything he ever got the hard way, walks into the Springfield nuclear power plant and watches Homer coast through life, being rewarded for nothing. Homer has a house, a family, a lobster dinner, and a Grammy just sitting on his shelf, and he earned none of it. The whole episode is Grimes slowly losing his mind over this. Without Homer, Grimes is just a guy who shows up to work and goes home. There's nothing to lose his mind over. And then there's the big one, The Simpsons movie. Over $500 million at the worldwide box office, and the whole thing kicks off because Homer dumps a silo of pig waste into Springfield's lake. The EPA domes the town. The family goes on the run. Homer has to save everyone. The biggest commercial moment in Simpsons history. And it all comes down to one man and a pig. You can keep going. Last exit to Springfield. Homer accidentally becomes the union leader. King-size Homer. Homer gains weight to qualify for disability so he can work from home. Homer the Great. Homer joins a secret society. Episode after episode, the story only starts because Homer made a decision that no reasonable person would ever make. Pull him out, and The Simpsons has no stories left to tell, so Homer drives the plots. But even in episodes where someone else is the focus, Homer is usually the one carrying the comedy, and when you pull that out, the rest of the cast starts to crumble. Lisa. She's smart, principled, plays the saxophone, reads Hemingway, and on her own, she's kind of a lecture. Lisa works because she bounces off Homer. She's brilliant, and her dad can barely microwave soup. That contrast is where the comedy lives. Without Homer standing next to her, being hilariously wrong about everything, Lisa is just a very serious 8-year-old giving speeches to a room that doesn't care. Bart is the same deal. His whole thing is chaos and pushing every boundary he can find. But half of what makes it land is Homer. Homer is the authority figure who is supposed to stop Bart, and never can. Every "Why you little" followed by a strangling is a classic because it shows a dad out of his depth, trying to parent a kid he has zero control over. Without Homer, Bart is still chaotic, but the comedy fades. He's just a kid acting out with nobody interesting on the other end. And Marge. Her comedy is almost entirely reaction. The frustrated sighs, the quiet disappointment, those moments where she stares at the man she married and can't find the words. Homer is what Marge reacts to. Without him, she's standing in a kitchen with nothing to say. All of that is before you even get to what Homer brings on his own. He fell down Springfield Gorge. Twice, he coined dough, a word that's now in the actual dictionary. He once looked at a donut and said,
Forbidden donut.
while being dragged to hell. That line has no business being that funny.
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
That quote has lived on t-shirts and dorm room walls since the 90s. One of the most repeated lines in television history. Every word of it belongs to Homer. Strip all of that out of the show, and you're left with Lisa lecturing nobody, Bart causing chaos that doesn't land, and Marge in a kitchen with nothing to react to. That show gets canceled before season 3. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps. Anyway, Homer carries the comedy. That much is obvious. But he also carries something that matters even more for why this show lasted 35 years. The emotional weight. The Simpsons has these moments, scattered across the run, maybe a handful per season, where the comedy drops away and something moving happens. And almost every one of them belongs to Homer. Picture this. It's season 6, and Homer has just quit his dream job at the bowling alley. The one place he was actually happy. The one job he was actually good at. He quit because Marge is pregnant with Maggie, and he needs steady money, so he walks back into the nuclear plant, back to Burns and the job he hates. And when he gets to his workstation, he takes photos of Maggie and sticks them over the plaque on his wall that reads, "Don't forget, you're here forever. So it reads, do it for her. That's one of the most emotional moments in television history. Animated or live action, doesn't matter. And without Homer, it doesn't exist. Then there's Mother Simpson. Homer's mom comes back into his life after years of hiding from the government. They get a few days together, and then she has to leave again. The final shot is Homer sitting on the hood of his car at night, alone, staring at the stars. No dialogue, just him and the sky, and it wrecks you every single time. One fish, two fish, blowfish, bluefish. Homer eats a badly prepared fugu fish, and the doctors tell him he has 24 hours to live. He makes a list of everything he wants to do with his last day. Say goodbye to the kids, have one real conversation with his dad, and then he oversleeps and doesn't even finish it. But the episode works because you spend 20 minutes watching Homer try to be the best version of himself, knowing he thinks it's the only chance he'll ever get. These scenes work because they come from Homer, the guy who eats too much and drinks too much and has no business being anyone's emotional anchor. And yet, when it counts, he always shows up. That gap between who Homer is day to day and who he becomes in the moments that matter is what gave The Simpsons its soul. Without that, the show makes you laugh a few times and you move on. Nothing that sticks with you or brings you back to the couch at 10 p.m. to rewatch something you've already seen 4 times. The comedy got people to watch. Homer's heart is what made them stay. But everything I've covered so far, the stories, the comedy, the emotion, that's all what Homer does inside the show. Step outside of it, and his impact gets even bigger. Doe was added to the Oxford English Dictionary in 2001. A fictional character put a brand new word into the actual dictionary. That just doesn't happen. Homer has topped lists of the greatest television characters ever created, beating out every live-action lead in the history of the medium. The Simpsons movie pulled in over $500 million globally, and the entire plot runs through him. When someone who has never seen a full episode thinks about The Simpsons, the first thing they picture is a bald, overweight man in a white shirt, and his influence reaches past the show itself. Every adult animated sitcom that came after, Family Guy, American Dad, Bob's Burgers, owes something to The Simpsons for proving the format could work. And The Simpsons proved it could work because Homer was funny enough, flawed enough, and human enough to make an adult audience care about a cartoon. In the early 90s, Bart was the breakout star. He was on every t-shirt and lunchbox in the country. But over the years, the show's center of gravity shifted to Homer. Because Bart was the moment, Homer was the show. Without him, The Simpsons might have existed, a decent animated sitcom that ran for a few seasons and quietly went away. But it would never have become the longest-running scripted primetime series in American history. The show that changed what animation could be. The show that generations grew up with and still come back to. That version of The Simpsons only works with Homer in it. One thing that kept coming back to me while making this video, Homer has been on screen for over 35 years, and people still watch, still care, still feel something when they see that "do it for her" sign. That kind of loyalty is wild to me. That's what I'm trying to build here too. My goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. If you enjoyed this, subscribing is the single biggest thing you can do to help make that happen. I've got a lot more Simpsons content on the way, and I want you here for all of it.